Hi, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Anomaly, which is episode 2 of season 3 of Star Trek Enterprise. This video is a part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Star Trek as determined by my user polls. The episode to win my latest user poll was Anomaly. So Anomaly is the episode where the Enterprise is exploring the Expanse, trying to find information about the Xindi when they come across these anomalies that threaten their ship, and pirates take advantage of them and steal all their stuff. So they track the pirates down to their hideout, which is a weird spear thingy, and they lay a trap for the pirates. They get all their stuff back, and in the process Archer has to torture the pirate guy that they captured, so he starts to lose his morality, but he still justifies it by not killing the pirates and getting all of his stuff back. So this was a pretty good episode. I think this is because the first episode of season 3 was kind of boring, throwaway, so we weren't sure if this whole Xindi story arc was going to work. This episode, I think, is where we did get the picture that yes, it was going to work, and this set up a really good character arc for Archer, because this is when we start to see him sort of fizzle and starts to see how important this catching this mission to find the Xindi is, because basically Earth could be destroyed. So I love this. This is where we see it start to tear on this character, and in fact the scenes with him and the alien pirate that they captured reminds me a bit of Jack Bauer from 24, but I say that in a good way. Actually, I actually think that works, that Archer is sort of forced in a situation where he desperately, because they had all his supplies and they can't continue the mission without their supplies, so he's willing, and without the mission, of course, Earth is destroyed. So it goes to show how far he's willing to go and how much this changes the character. In fact, I think that was kind of a theme in this episode, because the pirates themselves were just some normal aliens, well, never mentioned to my knowledge in Star Trek before, but apparently the Vulcans and the Denoblians knew who they were. And so they were just normal, like, merchants or whatever, but since this ship got caught in a bad situation, and it was in the Expanse with all these anomalies, they ended up losing their morals and becoming pirates. So it's just kind of the theme of the episode, of how, good people thrust into difficult and desperate situations can lose their morals and become a bit moralist and I guess evil, you could even say. And the pirates themselves had been in there for a while, so they were turned into like sort of the normal peaceful merchants into these pirates that go around killing people and stealing their shit. So that was interesting, and to see his sort of confrontation with... Now, this is the part of the episode I didn't really care for, is when the pirate that they captured was always taunting Archer, being like, you don't have the guts, you're good, you're comfortable, and you're not comfortable being moralist, and you're too... That kind of dialogue seems a bit fake and forced. I mean, he doesn't even know anything about humans. He's just judging them based off of what their ship looks like. As far as they know, he knows that Archer could be a corrupt asshole who likes killing people. How does he know? Oh, you're too comfortable. You're not comfortable torturing people. I don't believe you. So that kind of interactions did annoy me a bit, but I still did really like the theme of Archer trying to having to basically torture, and Reed comes up. It reminds me of the episode Equinox, and every time I watch a scene where Archer is torturing the guy and then Reed comes up and is like, sir, he's running out of oxygen, and Archer's like, yeah, I know, just leave it alone. It reminds me of the scene from Equinox when Janeway was torturing the Equinox crew, and Chakotay was like, yeah, you can't do that, you're gonna kill him, what are you doing? And stops her. But I think this is actually way better, because I get into Equinox, and when I did a review for Equinox, I had a lot of issues with it, especially that scene. It was out of character for Janeway. It didn't really make sense, and I think it didn't work. Whereas here, I think it makes perfect sense. It really works, because even though this is kind of out of character for Archer, it's in character if you think of how desperate the situation is. Like in Janeway's case, she just wanted revenge, which I didn't buy, but in Archer's case, It could mean the death of all humanity, and that is a realistic motivator that I totally can buy, and I totally can buy that he's, even though he's more of a goofball, peaceful guy, I can totally buy this transition that he's so desperate that he's willing to torture this asshole pirate that tried to kill them. Keep that in mind. Or at least steal all their stuff, kill them if he gotten away. I think the pirates, they mentioned that the pirates did kill someone, but it wasn't this particular pirate, but Archer's like, well, it was one of your friends, so it doesn't really matter. But he's not like he's punishing him for killing someone. He needs that information. He needs the supplies desperately, or humanity could be wiped out. And I like that. It shows the desperation of Archer's. Because I totally buy it. I totally buy it. And when Reed comes up, I was like, sir, blah, blah, you need to stop, blah, blah. He's like, nah, screw you, Reed. I'm going to torture this fucker until he gives me what I want. Even though, let it be said, I am, of course, highly against torture in real life. But I think for the episode, it does really work. It shows this growth in Archer and how. And this is referenced later on in my favorite Enterprise episode of all time. And this is another great thing about season 3, how it's able to have this continuity and set up, and so beautifully structured to like set up, because this is like the second episode of season 3, so we're just getting into this arc and it's sort of setting the stage, because this character journey that Archer's gone through, it progresses. It gets much worse until my favorite episode of Enterprise called Damage, which is much later in the season when the Enterprise is completely falling apart and it's destroyed, and Archer comes across these friendly aliens and he ends up attacking them to steal their stuff. And I love how in that episode T'Pol references this and says, look, if you attack these aliens to steal their stuff, then you're no better than the pirates that attacked us, and they're referring to the pirates in this episode. And I love that continuity, and it's actually really great, because in this situation it's easy, oh, you stupid pirates, you know, you suck, you're stealing our stuff, so we're going to torture you and get our stuff back. But later in the season, Archer becomes the pirates, and it's great, and it's what this aliens talk about in this episode, how he's like, oh, you know, because they were just normal merchants, and desperate situation can turn people into do desperate things, and Archer's like, no, that's no excuse. But then later, the exact same thing happens to him, so in a way, this asshole pirate alien was actually right. He was correct that this kind of desperate situations can turn anyone into a pirate. Of course, Archer, in Damage, Archer did argue that he wasn't like the pirates because it's a totally different situation, which, I mean, he wasn't exactly like the pirates because they showed no remorse in killing people and hurting people, and Archer went out of his way not to hurt the other aliens, just to steal their ship. But still, even, you know, so there's a difference, but still, it shows how desperation can drive people to do undesirable things. So that's really fascinating. Now, the episode itself is pretty exciting. It's a lot of action. I think it was the first like real action-packed episode of Enterprise, where it's just like a cat and mouse game between this pirate ship, and I loved how it's great seeing Enterprise actually go find the stuff and lay a trap for the pirates and just wait there, and as soon as the pirates come through that cloaking field, they're like, started firing at them. I think it's a great space battle, great exciting stuff. And then we're also introduced to the Sphere, talk about continuity in the Season 3 storyline. This is the first episode where we learn about these spheres, which actually will become a major plot point in the whole Xindi story arc, and will have huge implications for Archer's mission with the Xindi, and the Xindi trying to destroy Earth because they're being manipulated by the people who built the spheres, who are using the spheres to turn pretty much all the galaxies, starting with the Expanse, into their space that's inhabitable for them, but not for anyone else. And I wonder if the writers knew that when they introduced these spheres, or if they just yes-handed and built on it later. Either way, it doesn't matter. Either way, it really works. for the overall story, and it's a great sense of continuity. But all that being said, like, I don't think this is an amazing episode or anything like that, because all in all, there's not much to it. It's just simple, cat and mouse game between the aliens, and there's a lot of time spent, like the whole thing about Trip not being able to sleep, I could not care less about. And T'Pol's giving me, like, I'll get into this T'Pol Trip thing later, but I was never that happy with the relationship. But with the thing with Flock saying, T'Pol's gonna give you these steroid treatments, and it's kind of obvious that he's setting them up to be together, and I just don't like that storyline. But anyway, my rating for Anomaly out of 10 is an 8. Extremely good. It's a really fun episode. I love the way it sets up the Xindi story arc, which gets even better in the exploration of Archer and having to do desperate things when put into desperate situations. Not just Archer, but the aliens themselves. So I think that theme is explored well, and the episode was pretty exciting in itself. Not great, because there were things that annoyed me, like the whole guy saying, "You don't have what it takes to torture me." That kind of annoyed me, and the whole Trip thing kind of annoyed me. But still, a really good episode. So now, that's it for my review. So now it's time for me to select the options and the poll, to create a poll for which episode you would like me to review next. Okay, so let's select our options that will be in the next poll. So let's start with the original series option, and that is going to be The Empath, Season 3, Episode 12. They're trapped in the laboratory. Kirk, Spock, and McCoy meet an empath and are involved in the series. Now, this would be a weird episode to examine, because I think I've heard a lot of, good opinions about this episode, of recently, in the past, couple of years. I heard people saying, this is actually one of the better episodes. I always thought this episode was boring. I did not like this episode. So I can get more into that if you select that. And the Next Generation option is going to be Man of the People. Oh, what a horrible episode. This is one of the worst Troy episodes where, oh God, this guy feeds off her and turns her evil, whatever, and oh God. So if you want to hear me trash an episode, you can vote for that one. Alright, Deep Space Nine option is going to be Rules of Engagement. This is a meh episode. Worf destroys the civilian shuttle during an engagement with the Klingons, and extradition hearing is held to see if he faces charges. For me, I hold this episode up as the prime example why Deep Space Nine shouldn't have made the Klingons the enemy in Season 4. I think that was a huge mistake. So if you select this episode, I'll probably get into more detail about why that didn't work. Anyway, Voyager option is going to be 30 Days. So this, I named this, and this was in my top 30 worst Voyager episodes. Wow, a lot of episodes I don't like being selected here. So this is when Tom is demoted to ensign, and he goes to an ocean world. Again, if you want to hear me trash an episode, you can go that. So we do Enterprise the old-fashioned way by going to the number generator, and that comes with number 2. So we got Season 2. I believe that has 24 episodes. Season 2, Episode 17. So we go over to IMDb and see what that corresponds to. Season 2, Episode... Whoops, just passed it here. Kanamar. What is this episode? Archer and Trip are accused of smuggling and sent to a penal colony, Kanamar, when the Enterprise manages to negotiate their release. Mutiny breaks out on the prison ship. Oh yeah, this is another throwaway, really boring, pointless Kanamar. It says I gave this episode a rating of a 1, so I guess I really hate this episode. Wow, so there's your 5 options. Bunch of episodes I either don't like or think are meh. There you go. Wow. So those are your 5 options. Be sure to vote in the poll. I'll put a link to the poll in the description below. It will be a link to the website straw poll. We'll have those 5 episodes that you can vote for, and whichever one has the most votes I will review. I will probably won't be able to get to my review for another month, so it won't be a month until I'll review the winner, but I will review the winner. Thank you guys so much for watching. You can check out my channel as I do many more Star Trek videos. Also cover other shows like The Expanse, which is currently on. I'm covering a lot. Also, there's Game of Thrones, Babylon 5, and more. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.